Well, here we are, Jafffa Adventures. We made it to Magic Pools. I must admit, I had my doubts whether we were going to get here or not because we were coming in on the smell of an oily rag. And what I mean by that is, I didn't know exactly where this place was. I had a rough guesstimate, and I basically followed my nose on a couple of the four-wheel drive tracks. And that's how you find places like this, isn't it? You have a go. You see a dirt road, it's roughly where you think it should be, poke your nose down it. Worst that can happen is you hit a locked gate and you got to turn around.
We left our camp on the Gascoyne and had one of the longest driving days yet as we made our way to Chilla Plains Station, a place I had heard that has some excellent four-wheel drive tracks. Along the way, we found this unfortunate scene.
Ouch, Archman. This couldn't have been good. She's a petrol. Shit, they had a baby on board as well. Nasty. About 20 kilometers on the Parenti side of Chilla Plains is the track. Wangara Pool turnoff. Now there is a locked gate there. You will not be able to get into there without stopping off at the station and either paying $20 if you only stayed there one night, or if you stayed there 2 nights or more, you can get in there. But without that key, not getting in. The track is marked with a steel drum, which we can see on the left-hand side, and apparently the locked gate is about 10 kilometers up the track or so. Oh, they could have said that it's marked with a big, giant, burnt-out Holden.
Panel van.
Yeah, the old panel van. HQ or something like that. They do provide you with a little information pamphlet and a map. This is apparently called the time trip or the time loop. And the reason for that was it started with the oxygenation of the Earth. And this apparently shows us that entire sort of process from when the Earth was unoxygenated all the way through to when it was. And they had a geologist that actually has gone through here and pointed that out.
Beautiful little papery flowers in the walk to the wall.
We have made it to the wall. Now that's obviously a waterfall during the wet period. And that pool is actually not stagnant. Unbelievable.
Getting a drink down there. You hear that wind?
It's cool.
Don't splash me.
I won't. Just a tiny stone.
Don't splash. Yeah, I won't, he says.
Just a tiny stone. Really does amaze me that this pool is not stagnant. I do not know why. You can see how the range has all been folded up on its edge. That was obviously flat sedimentary at one point. We're heading back into a place called Nameless Pool, which isn't actually on the map they provided us. However, it did have a Chilla Plains sign on it and an arrow on it. So that's pretty much approval in my eyes. Somewhere I read or I watched a video maybe about Chilla Plains being some real challenging four-wheel driving up on top of cliffs. No, we haven't had any of that. This has all been down in the plains and it has been dead easy. You could do it with a two-wheel drive if you wanted to. So I don't know whether they've closed off tracks or we just haven't got there yet. We'll see. This is the main crossing of the Beasley River. It is a really hard rocky bottom, round rocks, so no boggage. It's like the cobbled road that Jill and I drove on a few days ago.
Well, we didn't drive on it.
That's true, we did.
I only walked on it.
Yeah. It's a muddy pool with some muddy water and a bit of cow piss in it, surrounded by beautiful river red gums and these red ranges as well. You ever had one of those real low energy days? Well, I'm having one today. And I am certain that that'll be coming across on the camera. So my apologies for it now, but you just have them some days. colossal pool. That clump in the trees there of all that debris, that's probably about 20 feet above my head. So when she gets pumping through here, she gets pumping. It's a quiet, quaint little pool. Water's a little bit dirty. It's kind of early in the season too. I would have expected it to be a little bit cleaner. Lots of cattle piss, I'd say, and the odd cattle poopers. We're doing a short little 300-meter walk to Parenti Falls, which, as Jill said, I'm sure will be dry, but it's still worth the walk. It's only 300 meters. Have a look at the coloration in that rock. That's very pretty. And here's the base of Parenti Falls coming up. Hold on to your hats, folks. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. That would be pretty specky when she's pumping through here. Well, we're driving out of this Wangara pool track, and we have finished it. It didn't gain more than a meter or two of elevation, so it's definitely not the track that I read about that goes up on the cliff tops. Don't know whether that track still exists or whether they've shut it down or whatever, but a little bit disappointing from a drive point of view. The views were cool enough, you know, at your waterfalls and pools and things like that, but from a drive point of view, nah. Not good. We're at a small cave just outside of Chilla Plains Station. The swallows have made nests on the roof, and it's bright red from the color of the sand and the mud. And apparently that has been authenticated as a grinding stone, where the Aboriginals will take a rock and grind up the grain on the big rock. There's Jill for a bit of size perspective on this cave. Just a bit of folded rock that's sort of eroded away, and there's a hole. There's Chilla Plains Station out there in the distance, only a couple of kilometers. There's the road we came in on, and this is as much elevation as we have had on any of the driving. We're probably about 5 meters above the car. Pity, I reckon those tracks on top of those ranges would be spectacular. Well, today you find us on a four-wheel drive track into what we hope is a place called Magic Pool. I'm running on very limited knowledge and very limited information. It is encouraging because this track is heading in towards the bottom end of Karijini, and it's been used very heavily. That leads me to believe we might be onto something. It's an interesting little open plain here. We have passed into the national park boundary now, so we are in Karijini. Jill suggested that I drop the tires down, which I have done. So we're running about 28 in the back and about 26 in the front. And we're heading towards a giant rock wall that hopefully has some magic pools in store for us. We cannot shake this rain cloud though. There's one cloud and it's sitting over top of us. We're getting closer to larger trees, which means water, which means pools, and we're getting little low range sections like this here and there where you've got to climb out of these riverbeds. So it looks like all these tracks sort of join up with one another. But it is a maze of tracks, which really surprised me back here. I thought there would have been just one main one, being in a national park, but they're freaking everywhere. Here's the big trees, so I would say we are on top of these magic pools. Oh, toilet paper. We must be getting close. That's looking magic pooly. There they are, water and everything. Nice, Gary. That's lovely. But what we've got here is lovely permanent water source. In the background there are those red cliffs that are formed out of some sort of an aggregate. And you got these beautiful white gums against that red backdrop. Just stunning. Beautiful, beautiful spot. And here we are, all set up at Magic Pool. I think it's also called Bob Swim as well. At least that's what it is marked on the map. Got the satellite dish hooked up, uploading a video to YouTube at the moment so that you guys can keep on munching on this content. And I'm going to pull a cold beer out of the fridge and have a swim. Down there, it's a little bit wide, and because of that, a little bit shallow. And then right here, we've got the pinch point. So I reckon this spot's probably going to be the deepest, which is the spot I'm going in. That's deep. That's up to my neck right there. And that is what it's all about, folks. Awesome. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I think it's pretty safe to say we won't see any other campers down here. So good, and not a soul for miles. Just leaving our lovely camping at the Magic Pool or Bob Swim at the Turee River. My goodness, it was incredible. And now back out the 15-20 odd K to the road. There's a few spots on this track like this here in front of us that are quite steep and a bit washed out from open centers. So, you know, you got that sort of stuff to contend with. There's no chicken tracks around them, so you do have to take them on. This particular one we were just at, Jill had a mud flap down in the bottom there, so somebody's ripped off a flap going up that sucker. Okay, we got ourselves a steep little hill to get up here. That's pretty cool. Looks intimidating from down here. Probably looks like sweet FA on the camera. Got a little bit chewed up here by the guys with open centers. I got both diff locks in at the moment, so we'll just walk up it. And you might say, oh yeah, you're making it look easy because you got diff locks. Well listen, that's why I bought the bloody things, to use them. I'm not gonna smash my car over rocks and shit just to prove that I can get up without diff locks. Use the tools that I've got, I say. Still cruising along this track to get back out to the main road from Bob Swim or Magic Pool or whatever you'd like to call it. We're in this white shaly stuff now. No matter how you paint it, it is a pretty amazing scenery around here.
No clouds today.
Not a one, is there? Not like yesterday when we were driving in and we had that one rain cloud sitting over top of us the whole way in. It's like, what the hell, guys? sign and the power lines that mark the end of the four-wheel drive track and get us back out onto the road, the main road in quotation marks. And this main road will then intersect with the bitumen. Nobody coming down the main road.
Clear.
So that is it. That was a well worthwhile detour into the southern end of Karijini. Absolutely amazing. We've just visited Tom Price and done a little bit of reprovisioning. And now we're going to head out of town and we're going to go up Mount Nameless and have lunch up the top of Mount Nameless. Thank you for not pulling out in front of me, dude. Town hasn't changed all that much from what I remember, and that's 30 years ago now. That is Mount Nameless directly in front of us. There's a sign that said Mount Nameless four-wheel drive only. It's a pretty imposing and impressive mountain in front of us, that's for certain. I pulled up to let air out of the tires to get up to the top of Mount Nameless, and I just was struck by the beauty of the mountains around here. That's Mount Nameless there, straight into the sun, but you just got this panorama of these peaks everywhere. It is stunning. And we're here at almost midday, so the lighting is not favorable for us. But woo-wee! That is one sexy mountain range. I'm going to go down to 28 on the back and 26 up front. Here's my 28 on the back. Well, the sign just said use low range from this point forward, and if you roll off the cliff and die, we take no responsibility for it. So I've dropped down into low, and we'll try not to die. It did say no towing up here as well, which I thought was interesting. Yep, you definitely want low range here. It's just too bumpy and jostly for high range. We're still on the ascent up Mount Nameless. She's a steep one and a long one. We've got a water temperature on the truck now of 85 degrees and a ATF of 95. That's quite warm. The truck normally runs at about 80 degrees and the transmission normally at about 65. So she's working. We've just hit a really scrabbly and quite steep section. So I popped both diff locks in at the moment so that we can crawl up this thing rather than scrabble up it and rip knobs off of tires and do all sorts of car damage.
It's very steep.
It is.
The video will never show it.
No, never. We're on the final push to the summit now, I believe.
You can hear the truck working.
It is working. We've been in first gear, low range for most of the way. And you wouldn't want to take it any quicker than that, especially in an auto. You burn your transmission out. Transmission towers and the like up at the top. Looks like the track goes past them.
My window back up, red dust is getting me.
Yeah, the dust is overtaking us. Boy, oh boy, I hope we don't get friggin' cancer from these dishes up here. That's crazy. We're at one of the 3 lookouts on the top of Mount Nameless. This one is actually the highest, but it's not the best, I don't reckon, because you got these towers right in the road. One lookout's just there, and that overlooks Mount Tom Price. There's another lookout over there. That overlooks Tom Price itself, the town. And this particular lookout goes out over the scenery, which I got to admit is freaking unbelievable. GoPro's going to flatten all of that out, but the 3 dimensions and the vista, just amazing. There is the Tom Price mine in front of us. I'm suspecting all those buildings on the left, they're all the dongas for the workers. There's a train sitting on the tracks, getting loaded up, and off in the corner there between those 2 hills, that's where the mining operations are proper. And this is all iron ore here. GoPro probably not picking it up, but you can hear the mine just rumbling. Alright, here we go down the hill. Before it was all about the engine getting hot, now it's going to be all about the brakes. We'll use the transmission to brake us as best we can, and it should do an adequate job. I'm in second gear at the moment with no throttle, and it's maintaining a decent speed. It'll just be in the real steep sections when I'll have to drop it down to first and probably use the brake as well. We are still making our way down Mount Nameless. I've never seen the truck run as cool. Water temperature 77 degrees. The exhaust gas temperatures are 74 degrees. The only thing warm at the moment is the transmission at 95, and that's because it's doing all of the work. But we're through the worst of it now, so it'll flatten out, relatively speaking, shortly. That looks pretty impressive going in between these sort of gorgy rock walls. Well, that's pretty much it for Mount Nameless. We'll call that a wrap. If you make it into Tom Price and you've got a reasonably capable four-wheel drive, get up to the top of the mountain there, because it is well worth the drive up. It'll take you about 45 minutes up and the same back down.